Hello and welcome to the Hoopers Dimension podcast. It's your host of the Hoopers Dimension podcast, Ernest, aka Ernesto. And the Hoopers Dimension podcast is pretty much, it's just gonna be a podcast with me as the host, and I'm gonna be talking about any and everything NBA, and just basketball in general. So obviously it's a few days before the season is starting. And I really just plan to just do this podcast every Wednesday and Saturday for as long as I can. Anybody who tunes in, it's really appreciated if you just share the video if you like it, and if you enjoy, obviously share it to a friend like I already said. Subscribe to my channel. I'll also be trying to post other NBA content, and everybody who watches this, I would assume, loves basketball, and I'm just gonna just give my opinion about different things, talk about basketball. In this episode, there's a lot of things to talk about. I'm going to be talking about the GM surveys, my five bold takes as my most surprising team in the NBA, and yeah, all of that is going to just sort of tie into each other. But before I start the podcast, since it's the first ever podcast, I want to list my goals of the NBA season. The NBA season starts on Tuesday. Obviously, it's going to be the I believe the Pelicans versus I couldn't tell you. But yeah, I just want to start with my NBA goals. I am a Bucks fan. So one of my goals is to watch 40 or more Bucks games. Um I also want to watch 30 or more Nuggets and Magic games. Those are two teams I'm very high on, and I'm just very big fans on. Nikola Jokic is probably my second favorite player in the NBA after Giannis. So fun to watch. Such a great playmaker. He has one of the most underrated offensive impacts, not only just in today's game, but I think in all of the 2010s. And I think he's the best center in the NBA. But that's also a discussion for a different day. Another one of my goals is to watch 25 or more Philly, Lakers, Clippers, Rockets, and Warriors games. None of those teams I really have a bias towards or I really like in any particular way. It's just because they have such important superstars. Obviously, Lakers have AD LeBron, Clippers, Paul George and Kawhi and their whole team. The Rockets have Russ and James Harden. The Warriors have Steph Curry and D'Lo. Philly has Joel Embiid, Al Horford, Ben Simmons, and yeah. I just want to watch all of those teams 25 or more times just because they're good teams. I want to watch 10 or more Jazz, Nets, Mavericks, Celtics, and Blazers and Bulls games, 5 or more Heat, Pacers, Kings, Hawks, and Pelicans games, and then 3 or more games of everybody else. Um, some of my goals are to take notes, keep up with NBA news, consistently do the podcast, of course, every Wednesday and Sunday, keep checks of my Nuggets, Bucks, and Magic, and I'm also going to be writing a blog post once a week. So with all of that sort of out of the way as my NBA goals, which I'm sort of trying to be sticking to, let's just get right into some popular NBA news. Um, one of the most one of the biggest things that happened over the weekend were Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown was offered a 4-year, $80 million extension by the Celtics, which is a big sum of money, a lot of money. Um, it's a lot of money, 20 million per year, and I think that's definitely solid for Jaylen Brown. But he did the Nerlens Noel, and what I mean by that, obviously, he didn't take a deal that would guarantee him a bag over a pretty long course of years, but instead he's risking himself. He's expecting himself to play better and earn an even bigger contract. He wants that Ben Simmons, that Jamal Murray 5-year, 170 million. He wants to secure his bag. And I know a lot of people have been sort of clowning Jaylen Brown for this, making fun of him, but I think Jaylen Brown is a very, very, very good player. I think he is going to have a very good season. I think he's going to be a breakout season. He's actually in one of my bold predictions. And let's just look at Jaylen Brown. He's a 6'7" combo shooting guard, small forward. He's extremely athletic. We saw what he did in the 2018 playoffs. Um, And last year he averaged 13 points on decent splits, 46% from the field, 34% from three. Pretty bad from the free throw line, 66%. But that sort of just regressed because of the whole Celtics messy situation. He got benched, this and that, and all of that just sort of weighed in against him. But obviously the best we have seen Jaylen Brown is during the 2018 playoffs, where he averaged 18 points, 5 rebounds, shooting 46% from the field, and 39% from three on 6 attempts. He was playing solid defense. He was a shot creator. He was a ball handler for the Celtics. And he was one of the big reasons they went to Game 7 against LeBron and put LeBron James to a Game 7 in the East. And obviously, this playoff run is talked about a lot, inciting why Jaylen Brown is a good player, but as it should be. I think this proves Jaylen Brown has something in him. He obviously has the potential and tools to be a great player. Um, and I don't think, even if you want to say that he's a system player with Brad Stevens, I think he is still going to flourish enough where the point where he deserves more money than 4 years, 80 million. One of Jaylen Brown's biggest weaknesses, I would say, is probably his ball handling. He's always struggled as a ball handler. Ever since his rookie year, he would get doofus turnovers just from fumbling the ball, and things like that. But I think after this offseason of work, he's gonna significantly improve his ball handling skills. And I think with that and just how athletic he is and how much potential he has as a finisher and a shot creator, he's really gonna have a nice breakout season. And he's gonna prove a lot of doubters wrong. He's gonna shut up a lot of doubters, and he's gonna be really, really good. And yeah, that's sort of my take on how I think Jaylen Brown is going to do this upcoming season. And I think he has every right to deny that contract. I really think he can get more money than that. And speaking of contracts, the next player we have to talk about is Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield is a very good player for the Sacramento Kings. Last season, he was one of the best three-point shooters in the entire league. He was putting up 20 points, 46% from the field. I think 40% from three. Let me check. 42% from three on how many attempts? On 8 attempts. He was shooting 42% from three on 8 attempts. He nearly had a 50, 40, 90. Well, not nearly because he was shooting 46% from three, but he was just having amazing shooting splits. He was one of the biggest reasons. Oh, I'm sorry about that. He's one of the biggest reasons for the Kings almost making the playoffs. If you can hear that, I'm sorry, it's my phone going off. But yeah, he was one of the biggest reasons for the Kings making the playoffs. He had an amazing season, 20-point scorer, and I only expect him to improve. Even though he is 26 years old, I do expect a decent leap from him. And the Kings also recently offered him a contract. The contract said that he would get $22 million per year for 4 years, I believe. And Buddy Hield was not happy with this at all. Buddy Hield said he is insulted that he would get such a little belittling offer, and he thinks that he is not worth 22 million at all. He is expecting a max. He is expecting more than 22 million, and he just is offended at such a low offer. And I think 22 million is perfect for a player like Buddy Hield. But obviously, and he is threatening that if Sacramento does not give him his money by Monday, that he will be leaving Sacramento, that he will find someone else who will be willing to pay him. And I think this is crazy. So first off, Buddy Hield is only eligible to get 25% of the Sacramento Kings salary cap. And right now, he is, with the contract the Kings offer him, he would take up 20%. So that's near the max. And again, I don't think Buddy Hield is worth a 5-year, 170 million. And I also think that $22 million is perfect. I know I was talking about how great Buddy Hield was last season and how I even expect some amount of growth, but he is 26 years old. We cannot expect his growth. This could be his ceiling as a player. We don't know how much better he can really get, again, because he's 26. I mean, yeah, 26, not 27, sorry. And again, it's just a little ridiculous to expect so much money. And but I do think eventually the Kings will cave into this. The Kings can't afford to give up all this money. I mean, excuse me, the Kings can't afford to give up probably one of their best players in the 2010s outside of maybe Boogie. And how valuable Buddy Hield is to this team is very, very, very clear. They will not be able to give him up. Buddy Hield is key to this team. He is vital to this team if they want to make a playoff run this season. So unless they want to make another blundering decision like they are so known for, they will have to pay Buddy Hield. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Just because no big NBA star wants to come to Sacramento. And let's just keep it 100. Nobody's going to Sacramento. I don't want to go to Sacramento. LeBron definitely doesn't want to go to Sacramento. Any big free agent isn't going to go to Sacramento. So locking up their players and their core who are going to be important and vital to them growing as a team, growing as an organization is more important than trying to save up cap for a big free agent signing that is never going to happen. And I'm not trying to say that they are trying to save up cap. Obviously, they want to keep Buddy Hield. And if he's saying that he's not happy with the contract offer, they're going to have to offer him more money. And that's just point blank, period. They are going to have to give Buddy Hield the max, whether they like it or not. And honestly, I do think it's a stretch, and I'm not quite sure that he deserves it. But in reality, for the situation they're in, and for the type of market they are, and for the history they had, they are going to have to offer Buddy Hield a max contract unless they want to lose him and fall back into mediocrity. And that's how big I think Buddy Hield's impact on this team. If they lose a player like Buddy Hield, they will be mediocre. They will not make the playoffs, and that is for sure. That's a guarantee. Even if Marvin Bagley improves, even if De'Aaron Fox improves, which I think all of the NBA community expects, without Buddy Hield, they will not make the playoffs. And that's period. There's no discussion to that. That's a guarantee. So even if he's not worth every single penny of a 5-year, $170 million, 25% of their cap, that's the offer they're going to have to give him. So I think that's what's going to happen. And I think Buddy Hield is smart for wanting his money, for wanting his bag. So that's sort of how I feel about that. But to talk about something pretty positive, I guess, there was a pretty unexpected breakout of performance from a player called Kendrick Nunn. Kendrick Nunn was undrafted. He went to the University of Illinois, and he just dropped 40 points for the Miami Heat in the Summer League. This was obviously sort of out of nowhere, but yeah, Kendrick Nunn. He did have a very short stint with the Warriors in 2018. He played 3 games, shot 27% from the field, and played 9 minutes in those 3 games. But yeah, obviously he got waived, and he was undrafted in 2018, and he just dropped 40 points, sorry. And I think it's crazy. I think, again, it shows how many players who can just come from not being a lottery pick, not even being drafted, and I think it's really just shows how big the NBA is. I think another story of something like this, or just an undrafted player, is Ben Wallace. And I'm not saying that Kendrick Nunn can be the next Ben Wallace, that he's going to be some great NBA player, but I do think it's just a really nice story for this guy. Even if he never plays another minute of NBA basketball, the fact that he's going to be able to tell his kids that he scored 40 points on the Rocket against Russell Westbrook and James Harden is always going to be something in his legacy, always going to be something that he can live with. And yeah, I think it's a very, very nice thing. And speaking of the Rockets, let's transition straight into Russell Westbrook. It is said that Russell Westbrook was dislocated his finger against in this preseason game against the Miami Heat. And Russell Westbrook will probably miss the first weeks or few weeks or so of play. And I think this will actually be very, very detrimental to the development of the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets, obviously, they have two very, very glass cannons, I guess, two very unexpected players, two of the most galvanizing players in the NBA. You either love them or hate them, join them or against them, Russell Westbrook and James Harden. And I think every single minute that these two can mesh together on the court, try to get used to playing with each other is vital and very important to their success, because both of these players are very, very hard to play with, and that is undeniable. So if neither of them can mesh well together, figure out things together on the court, learn how to share the ball, learn how to play both in D'Antoni's system, they are going to be a flaming disaster. And I think Russ missing any amount of time, Harden missing any amount of time is only going to hurt them and only going to prevent them from becoming better together. So I think this will overall hurt the Rockets. I don't doubt that they can start off strong, but I think that will only make, when Russ comes back, that will only hurt them in the long run. And I think it really sucks. I think it sucks that he dislocated his finger. That's probably going to affect his shooting, which we already know is very, very abysmal. It's not good at all. So, yeah, this sucks for Westbrook. This sucks for the Rockets. This sucks for Rockets fans. And also, I think another thing this could be bad for is I think seeding is going to be very, very important coming this NBA playoffs. Last year, seeding was vital, and it really bit the Rockets in the butt because the Rockets had to face the Golden State Warriors in the second round. They were the fourth seed, and obviously this was because Chris Paul missed a significant amount of time, Clint Capella missed a significant amount of time, and James Harden had to carry the team on his back, going for a crazy, historic scoring performance during the whole season. We know the story, but that was really the fall of the Warriors. Obviously, they couldn't get past the Rockets. And if they were to be the 3 seed, face the Thunder in the first round last year, they probably could have swept the Thunder. They could have dealt with the Nuggets in a gritty series, but not as bad as the Warriors one. And they could have faced the Warriors in the conference finals. And whether or not I think they would have beat them is different. But obviously, I think they would have fresher legs than the Warriors and would be in better shape. And I think because of this, the Warriors could be more susceptible to losing the series. And I think that's really where the Rockets seeding hurt them. And again, because they're going to be missing Russ and they're not going to be able to mesh together as quickly, him and James Harden, that's only going to suffer in losses and lower seeding, and I think that's going to hurt them. I think the Nuggets flourished last postseason because of their great regular season, and their seeding helped them in the playoffs. They were on the weak side of the bracket. And I think this is going to be another vital key in this year's NBA playoff seeding. And I think that's really going to hurt the Rockets, especially from this dislocated finger. And another injury that we were made aware of is that Zion Williamson could potentially miss the first few weeks of NBA basketball. And obviously, we know Zion is Zion Williamson. He is a hooper. He's probably one of the most athletic guys, and he hasn't even touched any NBA minutes. He is amazing in the paint. He is an amazing finisher. He's all of this. He can be a great defender. He can be all of this. But here's the reality. He is 285 pounds and is 6'6", with bad knees before he has even played a minute of NBA basketball. And that is a recipe for disaster. That is one of the biggest just no's I've ever seen. Do I think he's talented? Of course I do. Anybody who has two eyes can see Zion Williamson would be the rookie of the year if he played. He is obviously talented. He's obviously going to be one of the best rookies we have ever seen if we can see him play. Him having all of these knee problems, all of these injury problems, and is 285 pounds and is only 6'6", that is going to be a huge problem. That is going to weigh down his whole career. And I think these problems are only going to get worse when he sees how strenuous the NBA season is, how conditioned you have to be, all of how physical it is, how much running you have to do. I think that's only going to make his knees even worse. So I do think that I think Zion should obviously shed a few pounds. I think he should become more conditioned, and I think he should play very light minutes throughout his rookie year. And obviously, this means he might not win a Rookie of the Year. Shoot, he might not even make an all rookie team. If that means play him 20 minutes a game, 15 minutes a game, just so his knees can stay safe, but he can also get some NBA playing time, I think that's the right decision in the long run. Because Zion is a very, very, very special talent. He is not someone I would ever want to lose. So I would be very careful in how I play him, how I send him out there, how I run sets with him. And I think he should be careful on how he comes down from dunks and stuff like that. Obviously, it sucks that we don't get to see him play, but I think he should be 1,000%. His knee should be 1,000%. He should be in 1,000% shape before he touches an NBA court. And I think everybody should be able to agree with that. In some smaller news, Alfonzo McKinney got cut by the Warriors. He's probably one of the best free agents still available out of Jamal Crawford. He who should not be named, aka Carmelo Anthony, Maurice Spates, I guess. But yeah, I think a team could pick him up. I don't think he would be bad for a team like maybe the Nuggets as a big forward who could defend, since the Nuggets really lack something like that. But yeah, he got cut. Hopefully someone picks him up. Shout out to Alfonzo McKinney. But yeah, we have 3 more contract extensions we have to talk about. Pascal Siakam. Obviously, we should all know who Pascal Siakam. He had a breakout season last year with the Toronto Raptors. He was the most improved player. He put up around 17 points, 7 rebounds, amazing efficiency, amazing three-point percentage, 55% from the field, 3 assists, was a very good playmaker, and he was really a jack of all trades. He could do it from anywhere. He could shoot the 3 ball. He wasn't the best, and he would definitely get left open, especially during some times of the postseason. But he could shoot it. He definitely wasn't a Ben Simmons, but he could definitely shoot the 3 ball. Obviously, he can finish around the rim. He was very athletic. He was great on the defensive end. He was a very good passer, and he was a solid rebounder with great splits. And he went to New Mexico State, and until this, he was getting paid $1 million. And the year before, he was playing 20 minutes, getting 7 points a game, 4 rebounds, and was nothing special. He was a rotation bench player, and he really just broke out and flourished this season and was a huge reason for the Raptors winning an NBA championship. And because of this, he got rewarded for his fruits of labors and got a 4-year, $130 million contract extension. And I think this is a great deal for both sides. I think he deserves every penny, especially for a team like Toronto, who isn't signing the biggest free agents. He is also locked up for this Toronto team's future. So no matter how they go, they're always going to have this solid player in Pascal, who I only think is going to improve from here. I think this year he could probably be a 21, 22, 23-point scorer, maybe even boost that up to 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and yeah, that might sound a little crazy, but he's probably going to be he's the best player on Toronto. He's going to be the center of the offense, and he's going to be getting a lot of touches. So I think his numbers will improve greatly. I think he's probably going to transform to an all-star, maybe an all-NBA third-team caliber player. And I think this is great for him. I think he deserves this contract extension. Obviously, he worked so hard, came from New Mexico State. And yeah, and the Raptors just lock up a pretty young player. He's around 25, 26 age, which is definitely not old. And in 4 years' time, he'll be 29, which isn't old at all. He's just about to be hitting his prime. So yeah, I think this is a great signing for the Raptors. And speaking of the Raptors, man, these transitions are on fire. Kyle Lowry got a contract extension of 1 year, 31 million. And I think this is fine. Locking up Kyle Lowry. I think this is probably going to be Kyle Lowry's last All-Star caliber year before he hits a pretty steep decline. Last year we saw Kyle Lowry at the beginning of the season. He was very, very good. He was a leader in assists, like 15 and 9. He was shooting good from three. And during the playoffs, he had his ups and downs. But during the finals, he performed when he needed to, and he was a key piece in the Raptors winning the championship. And I think extending Kyle Lowry, it's fine. 31 million is a bit pricey, but you don't want to lose a key core piece to this Raptors team who can keep them at least decent, who can keep them as a 40-win team. And yeah. Again, I think this is a pretty good deal for both sides. Obviously, Kyle Lowry can still be guaranteed some playing time, and I do think he's about to hit a decline. In a few years, his contract is going to be pretty ridiculous and out of hand. But even with that, I think that it is good for the Raptors to just lock up a solid player like Lowry, who is going to be able to carry them to keep them in the playoffs and really just keep them above 500, maybe even push for 50 wins this season. So yeah, again, a solid signing. But yeah, another signing that I think is absolutely perfect is Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal is the league's literal Iron Man. He led the league in minutes, played all 82 games, and obviously had some injury problems for a big part of his career, but has been able to sort of just avoid them. I believe he played all 82 games last season, and yeah, he was a 25 5-5 guy, shooting 47% from the field and 35 from three and 81% from the free throw. That is terrific. That is all NBA caliber. That is amazing. That is just simply fantastic. And there's just no denying that at all. I think he could have made the All NBA team. I mean, obviously the Wizards sort of suck. But yeah, that's really good. For the past 2 seasons, he's played 82 games and 77 games the year before, which is just amazing. He is extremely consistent. Just look at the stat log on this guy. Look at the game log. He's going to be consistent night in, night out. You always know what he's going to give you. He's always going to be great. And he absolutely deserves this 2-year, 72 million contract extension. While I do think the Wizards are going to be a pretty middle-of-the-pack team, I think locking up their best player, and yes, I said their best player because John Wall is not going to be the same. And actually, I think we can just talk about this. We have a good amount of time left on the podcast, and just let's talk about how John Wall, ladies and gentlemen, will not be the same player when he returns. He just ruptured his Achilles. And not to mention, John Wall has suffered a slew of injuries before this. And John Wall, if you've ever watched him play, he's very reliant on his speed and his athleticism to get into the paint and pass, to finish around the basket, to be an effective player in transition. He is very, very, very reliant on his athleticism. And this type of injury is going to take all his athleticism away in one fell swoop. And until this season, and just in this upcoming season, if John Wall comes back, he will not be the same player at all. He will not be. I don't think John Wall will be an all-star once he returns back. And obviously John Wall was considered to some one of the best, to the second best point guard in the league, obviously behind Steph Curry. I never really agreed with this. Obviously, I think John Wall style of play, I don't think it's ever going to be able to win a championship, let alone take them past the second round of the playoffs. And I think this has always been shown. And with a player so reliant on his athleticism, I think John Wall is really going to struggle when he comes back to the NBA. And when he makes a return, he's not going to be as great. At best, I see him as a 16-point guy, 8 assists with a lot of turnovers, and he struggles around the rim. And he's not even a very good free throw shooter, so he won't even be able to produce that many points consistently that way. And he doesn't get to the line as much as he would want him to as a guy who goes to the paint so much. So yeah, when John Wall returns, he is going to struggle. And this whole Wizards roster in general is really just, it's going down the road of being one of the worst situations in the NBA. Obviously, they did get Rui, and Rui does look really good. He's been getting really good in the offseason. Um, he just looks like a great finisher inside, a good pick and roll man. He can give you some. His defense is sort of suspect. If he can give you some effort, he could probably be decent. But yeah, obviously the Wizards have got some players. They have Thomas Bryant. They have your Rui. They have your Bradley Beal. They have an Isaiah Thomas, who is a huge risk, by the way. And I don't think IT will ever be able to return as the same player with how many injuries he's been hit with and how literally just unplayable he is on defense outside of any coach except Greg Popovich and Brad Stevens. And I don't think people realize that. I think that also just shows how good of a coach Brad Stevens is and just how many people overrate Isaiah Thomas. But anyways, I think the Magic are in the worst no man's land position in the NBA. They have a star, a borderline superstar in Bradley Beal, who is one of the most consistent, amazing players in the NBA, but they cannot provide anything for him outside of Rui, who I don't think will ever be good enough to elevate this team to a contender. And they have Thomas Bryant, who's a very solid center, but again, won't be able to elevate this team to a contender. And both of these players and this whole team is just a stagnant roster. They're going to be able to give you anywhere from 39 to 45 wins, never make it past the first round in the playoffs, also never be good enough to capitalize or get high enough picks, even with the new lottery system, and they're just going to be stuck in this vacuum of mediocrity. And I don't know how they're going to get out of it, and I feel like it's just going to be a big thing for the next few years of the Wizards. I don't expect any immediate success. I don't accept any immediate media coverage. I think they're always just going to be sort of irrelevant. And I know that's harsh. I know that's mean, but it's just facts. That's just what it is. The Wizards are not going to be that good. They've been poorly managed for the past few years, and I think they're just, they're in one of the worst positions in the NBA. They used to be in what the Hornets were in until Kemba Walker left. And while I don't think their young talent is as bad as the Hornets were, especially with Rui and Thomas Bryant on the team, I do think that it's just a similar position. They're going to be bad for a while. And then it's going to either take Brad Beal demanding a trade, leaving in free agency, or getting hurt for them just to collapse. And that's just my take on the Wizards. But yeah, wow, we really just winning on the Wizards there. Sorry, Wizards fans, but yeah, it's just is what it is. And since we've sort of talked about all this other stuff, the contract and extension craziness, the injuries, some players getting cut, the big topic, one of the very big topics of today's episode is the GM survey. The GM survey is made every single year. It asks every single NBA general manager a different type of questions, and yeah, we're gonna be looking at a lot of these questions, and I'm just gonna be sort of saying how I feel about them, seeing how I would answer the question, and yeah. The first question, actually, no. Yes, never mind. Sorry. The first question we will be talking about is who is most likely to win the NBA Finals. 46% put the Los Angeles Clippers, 36% put the Bucks, and 11% put the Lakers. And I know this is a very big thing. Obviously, winning the championship is the biggest thing you can do in the NBA. And it's hard to predict so early before the season starts because obviously we can't predict injuries. Like no one could have predicted Kevin Durant gets a ruptured Achilles, Klay Thompson towards his ACL, all of that. And it's very, very hard to predict now. But my pick to win the NBA Finals is the Milwaukee Bucks. Call me a biased fan, call me all you want, but I think Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think teams will always double Giannis. But I think this offseason, I think Giannis really worked on his shot. And when I say shot, I don't think we're thinking of the same thing. When I say shot, you probably think of his 3-point shot. I'm saying his free throw shot. If Giannis can improve as a free throw shooter this year and draw the fouls as he always do, he can be a 30-plus point scorer. And in the playoffs, when games slow down and you just have to get in the rim and draw a foul, Giannis last year could not make a free throw to save his life, and it hurt us a lot. It hurt us massively. This year, I pray and I hope and I'm very optimistic that he will be a very consistent, good, at least 80% free throw shooter, and that will make a huge difference. And that is not the lone reason why I think the Bucks will win an NBA championship. Obviously, they took a very big hit in losing Malcolm Brogdon, which sucks a lot. He is such a good player. He's so valuable. And they extended Eric Bledsoe, who, quite frankly, as a Bucks fan, I hate him. I don't hate the man. I have no problems against him. He's an NBA player playing out his dream who gets paid. I have no problems for Eric Bledsoe. I just hate him on this roster. In the playoffs, he would take terrible shots. He would drive to the rim and make it harder for Giannis. He would fail as a playmaker. He would be a bad shooter. He would just have a terrible IQ. But the only thing saving him last year was his defense. He played terrific defense against Kyrie Irving in the playoffs last year, and I cite him as one of the biggest reasons of why he struggled immensely in the playoffs. And Bledsoe always has been a very tenacious, good defender. But even with that, I think Bledsoe, he's always going to be a player I dislike on the Bucks, just because of how incompetent he can be at times and how much he can struggle running the offense and how much we've seen him consistently been, quite frankly, trash during the playoffs. And yeah, he's always going to be someone I sort of have a problem with, I guess. But even with that, I feel like Chris Middleton can have a bounce back year. The Bucks, we made some pretty big roster moves. Obviously, again, we did lose a player like Malcolm Brogdon, who is very valuable, but we gained Kyle Korver, who is perfect for our system. We gained Robin Lopez, and hey, look at what we did to Brook Lopez. We turned him into a spot-up shooter. And I'm not saying Robin is going to be shooting threes next season, but it is very, very plausible that could happen. And he also is just a very solid, valuable bench piece. We have Wesley Matthews, who is, again, an amazing bench piece. And then we have Dante DiVincenzo, DJ Wilson, Sterling Brown, and Pat Connaughton. And I think all of these young players are going to be able to have a very big jump and improvement this season and are really going to be able to prove themselves, play good, and really transform this Bucks team. And I feel like we're going to be able to put up the same production, same amount of wins as last season. And this year, I feel like with the Raptors not being in our conference and with the Raptors not being the same threat because they don't have Kawhi, I think we're going to be able to steamroll through the Eastern Conference. And I think we'll be able to easily handle the 76ers. And why I think that is a discussion for a different podcast episode. But I think when we make the finals, I'm that confident. I can almost guarantee we can make the finals. And as crazy as that sounds, I'm not just confident in this Bucks team. When they make the finals, if they face the Clippers, I feel like it would be very different from the Raptors series. And I think this because the Clippers' defensive big men aren't good. They cannot stop Giannis. A big reason why the Raptors were so effective in slowing down Giannis last season was because Marc Gasol, Pascal Siakam, and Kawhi Leonard were all very lengthy and great defenders who were just set up a wall and slow him down and force him to pass out. And we would also just miss our shots and make bad decisions. And Coach Bud wasn't making the best adjustments. But with this Clippers team, Montrezl Harrell is not a good defender. Ivica Zubac is not a good defender by any means. And because of that, I feel like Giannis won't be getting trapped and encircled by the wall in the same way he did last year. And will be able to score, get his buckets, get to the free throw line, and put up points and be very effective against the Clippers. Again, JaMychal Green, Zubac, and Montrezl Harrell is this team's front court, some of their front court players. Obviously, Mo Harkless, Kawhi, Paul George are very good players, but having to pit them against a defense, and it's very grueling to defend Giannis, and making them defend Giannis for very long portions of time is going to wear them out. And this is very early, but that is a very oversimplification of why I think the Bucks will win the NBA championship. And most likely to win the finals, went to the Clippers, which I also think is totally, totally fair. This team has two of the best forwards in the NBA, two six-man of the year candidates, Patrick Beverley the dog, Landry Shamet, and a plethora of depth. There is absolutely nothing wrong thinking this team will win the NBA championship. And I'm probably in the minority thinking the Bucks will win the championship. But for all the reasons I cited, the greatness of Giannis, the improvement of Chris Middleton, the improvement of our young guys, the adding of those nice core bench pieces, and just how this Clippers interior defense will be, I think the Bucks can win the championship. But anyways, on to the next. The next topic was the top team in the East, and it was 76% Bucks and 24% Sixers. I feel like the Bucks is for sure the best team in the East. I feel like the Sixers actually regressed, and the reason I say that, I feel like Al Horford is a very, very, very great NBA player, very, very good. But I do feel like that this team's spacing for Joel Embiid is atrocious. And last year with Jimmy Butler, I feel like it was slightly improved. But with Josh Richardson on the roster, who is far from an amazing three-point shooter, I feel like this team offensively against a team like the Bucks, and maybe even a certain Nets or Celtics, if they perform to their absolute greatest, they will struggle immensely against those teams' elite defenses. And that's why I don't think they're the best team in the East. Also don't think I think Embiid as a playoff performer was very, very shaky last year. He wasn't conditioned. He wasn't in the most amazing shape. And obviously he was injured. And I think it will be a similar story to this year. And I don't think I don't think the 76ers will be the best team in the West for all of those reasons cited. I also think that, again, that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid is a bad fit, that this team is going to struggle, that Brett Brown is again going to be exposed as not a very good coach, and I don't think they could beat my Bucks, period. For the top team in the West, the GMs voted 66% Clippers, 14% Lakers, 7% for Houston and Golden State, and 3% Portland and the Nuggets. And for top team, I'm just going to assume it means making it out of the conference. And for making it out of the conference, for sure the Clippers and the Lakers are the top two. I don't think that I think from what we've seen from James Harden and Russell Westbrook in their playoff performances in the past, I do not think they will be able to make it out of the West. And while I don't think saying that James Harden is just a choking trash playoff player is always fair and is always not used with the right context, I just do not think this team can win against this monstrous West with how many problems I think they can have on the offensive end and how bad both of these players have been in past playoff series, man. I just do not think they can be the best. And Golden State, I think their depth is so atrocious. It's so bad, and their interior defense and defense in general is going to be so awful that they just will not be able to win a championship or make it out of the West. And the Portland Trailblazers and the Nuggets, I think the Nuggets are a very big dark horse candidate, especially depending on their seeding, as I mentioned earlier, to make it out the West. I think Jokic's offensive impact is huge. I think he's the best center in the league, and I honestly do think that he could lead that Nuggets team to making it out of the West, depending on their bracket. If somehow the Clippers and Lakers could get pitted each other and they both get very tired and they can beat the Rockets, I think that would be the best way that their bracket allows them to advance to the finals. And I do also think that if MPJ works out and that risk works and that Jamal Murray has another big improvement and that Jokic is just going to be Jokic, I think they can make the finals, man. And I think 3% is very, very, very low. I think they should be put in the same regards as Houston and Golden State, as crazy as that sounds. But I think the way Jokic offensive impact, the way he controls and runs that Nuggets offense is so silky smooth and it is unstoppable for the most part. He's an amazing passer. He can post up. He is a pretty solid shooter. He always knows the right play. He has an amazing IQ, very low turnover rate, sets the right screens, and it's just always doing the right offensive play, always making the right pass. And is probably, if you watched a lot of Nuggets games, is probably a big reason for 60 to 70, maybe even 80% of all of the Nuggets' points. He is that vital and that great. And he is so hard to stop and so hard to game plan for. I really do think the Nuggets can make that big run. Obviously, we know the Clippers. Obviously, we know the Lakers. But I think the Nuggets should be regarded as that third team that can make a run in the West. On the next category the GMs voted for was who will win MVP. Giannis with 52%, Curry with 10%, AD with 10%, Kawhi with 10%, and Jokic with 7%. Um, I think this is very fair to assume that Giannis will be the MVP. Obviously, he was the MVP last year, but this year he's just played. He has so many things going right for him. His offensive impact, his amazing defense, his dominance as an interior scorer, the Bucks probably being the best team in both the league and the East. Yeah, he just has a lot going for him to win MVP. And he probably, again, has a nice storyline in the whole narrative that he lost Malcolm Brogdon. He's really carrying the load this year. He's working with his brother, and his brother is in LA, and he also has that rivalry. And I think that's going to work out really well. But I think someone that is not represented in this MVP list that is absolutely ridiculous is LeBron James. I think LeBron James is not going to coast like he loves to do. I think he's going to be giving it his all night in, night out since the start of the season because he has never had legs this fresh. He has never had this much rest. And he has never well, actually, I was about to say something very reckless. I don't. If you know what I was about to say, I'm sorry, D Wade. But I was about to say Anthony Davis is the best player he's ever had, which is just simply not true. But Anthony Davis is the best big man he has ever played with, and I feel like LeBron can put up some monster, monster, monster numbers. I feel like he could average 26, 10 assists, 8 rebounds, and I feel like he's really just going to have a big resurgence season. And I really feel like he's going to show us, I am LeBron James. I am the best player in the NBA. Giannis, I let you have your fun, but I'm coming back for my throne. And I also think Curry. I think Curry is going to have a James Harden-esque season with high 30 points, carrying the Warriors' offensive load with D'Lo, and it's just going to be amazing because they rely on him so much this year. So much. The next thing we're going to be talking about is the best positions voted by the GMs. To start with a pretty simple one, who's the best point guard? Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry's been the best point guard in the NBA for a while. I don't think we really have to talk about this. He's the greatest shooter in NBA history, one of the best ball handlers in the NBA, has a huge offensive impact. It has one of the most versatile skill sets in NBA history, and it's just flat out better than every other NBA point guard in the league by far, and has consistently led his Warriors team to finals and finals appearances. The best shooting guard, again, we really don't have to talk about this. James Harden, man, averaged 36 points last season, and there is no other shooting guard even in his atmosphere. But Something that becomes more contested is who's the best small forward in the NBA. Kawhi Leonard won with 62%, LeBron James with 24%, and Giannis with 14%. And I think this is very, very interesting. I think Kawhi and LeBron are going to be two of the most neck and neck players we've ever seen in a while in the same city. I think Kawhi has one of the smoothest, silkiest games, just gets to his spots, make his shots, always knocked down, always going to be a great defender, but isn't nearly the playmaker of LeBron and won't be the same player in the fast break and won't be nearly as galvanizing as LeBron be. And I think this whole storyline and dynamic between these two will be very interesting throughout the entire season. And personally, if I had to choose one for this season in the context of both of their teams, I'm taking LeBron James, man. I'm taking LeBron James. And the best power forward, again, this one is very interesting. We have Giannis and AD. I think Anthony Davis is a very, very, very good player. But is he better than Giannis? No. No, he is not. Giannis, and I think this narrative that Anthony Davis is a much better shooter than Giannis and is a very good shooter is very much so overglorified. If I could just pull up Anthony Davis's numbers real quick, and before I even go into his numbers and all of this, I want to mention that I'm not some heavy stats guy. I think the eye test matters a lot. But Anthony Davis is not some radically better shooter than Giannis. And I think that whole narrative and why he's better needs to stop. Last season, AD shot 33% from three. In the season before, he shot 34%. And Giannis, he probably doesn't shoot much better. He probably shoots a few percentiles less. And from pretty much every other place on the field, from 3 to 10 feet, from all of those places, they shoot about the same. And last season, Giannis shot 25% from three. But I know that you're like, okay, how's AD is obviously a better shooter. But let's just look at some context. AD makes 0.9 threes per game. Giannis makes 0.7 threes per game. AD would take 2.6 threes per game, and Giannis would take 2.8 threes per game. There are very slight percentile differences between the two as shooters. And I think Giannis is a far greater interior scorer and paint scorer. And I think he is a much better ball handler and playmaker. And he is better in the fast break. And he is a better defender. I think the argument that AD is better than Giannis is ridiculous. And it stems from this false narrative that AD is a much better shooter. And it just needs to stop. Next category. Who's the best center in the NBA? And that should go to Nikola Jokic. 48% Nikola Jokic and 28% Joel Embiid. I'm not going to be counting Anthony Davis since I just talked about him. And I also don't think he's better than either of these guys as far as before the season has started, especially since how he played last season. And I'm only going to be talking about Embiid and Jokic. Nikola Jokic is better than Joel Embiid. Point blank, period. And I say that very, very, very adamantly. Joel Embiid is not better than Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic has a bigger offensive impact than Joel Embiid. Nikola Jokic is a much better passer, and he does much more for his team. Nikola Jokic runs and is the fuel for the Nuggets offense. He creates all of their shots. He is the one setting the great screens. He is the one making the right passes, and he is the one scoring when they need him to. He is shooting better splits than Joel Embiid, is a better three-point shooter than Joel Embiid, is a better passer than Joel Embiid, is a smarter player than Joel Embiid, has played more consistently than Joel Embiid, and the only thing Joel Embiid has him in, and I will admit, it is pretty far. Joel Embiid is obviously a better defender. And I think it is sort of overglorified of how bad of a defender Jokic is. But I think Jokic makes up for it for how vast his offensive impact is and how much better it is than Joel Embiid. And for that reason, I think Jokic is better than Embiid. And I think Jokic is going to prove that this season, lead his team to a better record, lead them to more playoff success than Embiid. And I think that will really end the argument. Now that we've talked about some of the GM surveys, to end the podcast, I want to talk about my 5 bold predictions before heading into the season. And this will also be interlocked, I guess, with my biggest surprise of the NBA season. To start, this one is pretty crazy. Like, just stay with me here. The first one, Justice Winslow will get a quadruple double. Justice Winslow obviously started playing point guard post All-Star break or around the time of the All-Star break for the Miami Heat. He was very, very effective. He would always stuff the stat sheet, get 6, 5 assists, 6, 7, 8 rebounds, and a decent amount of points, 15, 16 points, and very, very good defense. I think with this, especially playing with Jimmy Butler and Bam, who is probably going to take a leap, and Tyler Herro, the sharpshooter, that money boy, I think he's going to be able to rack up 10 assists in a game, 10 rebounds, 10 points, and 10 steals. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds wild, but I think it might be able to happen. And I think that's a huge might. And obviously, these are bold predictions. If I say someone like Russell Westbrook will get a triple-double, that's not a bold prediction. I think this is bold, and I think it's also plausible. My next prediction is Jonathan Isaac will make an all-defensive team. And this is one of my first of 3 things about the Orlando Magic because I love this team. If you were paying attention into my NBA goals, I want to watch 30 or more games of the Orlando Magic because I love this team so much. And I think one of the biggest pieces of this is Jonathan Isaac. I think Jonathan Isaac, if you watched him last season, he was an amazing, terrific rotation defender last year. And he alters shots. He makes it harder for you to shoot. He just is always in your way. He's always making good contests. He clogs up the lane. He clogs up the driving lane. He can always recover. He is noble and nimble around screens. He can defend contest. He can defend shots at the rim. And he is pretty much can defend all players 2 through 5. And is for sure guaranteed to make an all-defensive team. And I think with the strides that he's probably taken over the offseason, with all of that is going to happen this upcoming season. Jonathan Isaac is that good. And I think he's that good. He is a good help defender. He's a good one-on-one defender. And he is for sure going to be able to make an all-defensive team, in my opinion. And if he doesn't make it, I will be mad because he probably will deserve to make it. He had a very solid argument to make it last year. My next bold prediction is Nassir Little. If you all know about Nassir Little, this is my guy. Nassir Little is straight out of North Carolina. Was a very late first-round pick. He's only 19 years old, and I have him to be a top 5 rookie from his class. And I am so high on Nassir Little. This guy is going to be so good. I don't care what anybody tells me. He's around 6'7", 6'6". His MP was compared to Gerald Wallace. He's a very nice two-way forward. He's very athletic. He has an amazing first step. He has a 7'1" wingspan, 8'9" standing range. He is very high energy. Is an amazing perimeter defense. Always aware on the defensive end. He is not scared to go to the line. He's not scared to take contact. He's always an athletic rebounder. He's always going to just be a good slasher. He has a smart IQ. And I know for a fact that his shot is a little janky. Even the form is a little janky. But I am confident that Nasir Little is going to blossom, especially on this Portland Trails Blazers team, which has such great leadership, such great development. And he is going to be very, very good. And he's going to fill in that role of Al-Farouq Aminu very, very quickly. Do I think he'll be a superstar? No. Do I even think he'll be an all-star? No. And you might be wondering, why do I think he'll be a top 5 player? I think he can be a consistent and solid 15-point guy. 7, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and those are obviously great numbers, but he's going to have such good substance for his team. He's going to have such a nice impact. He's going to be a smart player who can get you a bucket at the right time, who's always going to be playing amazing defense, and is going to give you the effort you need. And if I haven't sold you on Nasir Little, I don't know what will. But Nasir Little will be a top 5 rookie of his class. My next prediction was something that I was mentioning earlier, and is Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown will make an all-star team next year. I think Jaylen Brown is one of the best players, is one of the best young players that we've ever seen. Again, Jaylen Brown led the Celtics to push LeBron James to a Game 7. Jaylen Brown is one of the most athletic young guards, shooting guards in the league. He's 6'7". He has an amazing frame, is incredibly athletic, has great potential for finishing, is awesome in transition, is improving his ball handling, his biggest downfall, and is always going to be able to just be able to hoop. He's always going to be able to get to the basket. He's always going to be smart. And I think Jaylen Brown is going to be able to give you 19, 20 points. I think he can be a 25-5 guy. In this upcoming season, I think he's giving you 19 points, 7, 6 rebounds, 4 or 5 assists. And I think he's going to be a key piece to the Celtics offense. I think how he's going to operate from the free throw line and to the baseline is going to be beautiful. I think he's always going to handle the ball, take it to the rim, be smooth, have a nice and silky mid-range game, and be a solid three-point shooter while giving great effort on the defensive end. Jaylen Brown will be an all-star. And my last and final prediction will also be about the team I think is going to surprise you. I'm going to go off here. I'm going to go crazy. And this is going to end the podcast. The Orlando Magic are going to win 50 games. Yes, 50. Not 49, not 48, not 47, 50. Now, the Orlando Magic last season were the 7th seed. They lost to the Toronto Raptors in 5 games, but overall had a very solid season. They won about 42 games and were nothing special. But the Orlando Magic are gonna just be absolutely amazing this upcoming season. They are gonna be so good. And the reason they're gonna be so good is their awesome defense. Their defense is so solid. Last year, they were 22-9 after the All-Star break with a top 10 defense. And the reason because of this was Steve Clifford. Steve Clifford was a huge reason why they were so successful. Everybody on that team gave defensive effort. That was their identity. Defensive effort. They worked together. They were glued by their defense. In February last year, they had the best defensive rating in the league with only 100 points per possession in 2019 basketball, with the fastest pace we've ever lived with. In March, they were 3rd in defensive rating. And to finish their season on a 6-game streak, 5 out of their 6 opponents scored under 100. And since January 1st last year, their opponent field goal percentage, opponent three-point percentage, opponent's points off turnover, opponent's second chance points, and opponent's fast break points, they were first And Big Vooch is a double machine who had an all-star season last year and is a high IQ player who fuels the Magic offense and provides them with everything they need and is going to have a similar season. And that's what I'm banking on. I'm banking on Big Vooch having a similar season as last year. I'm banking on Terrence Ross having a great season. I'm banking on Evan Fournier to bounce back. And Isaac and Aaron Gordon and Kim Burke and Wesley Iwundu are all going to improve. Mo Bamba, they're all going to improve. They're all going to be an amazing defensive team, and they're all going to clamp up. They're going to always produce a ton of points in transition, produce a ton of turnovers like they have in preseason, and they're going to be amazing. They're going to be so good because of it. They're going to be able to produce all of these points, and they have an added bonus in Markelle Fultz. And who knows how that will turn out. But even without that, I feel like this team will be a 50-win team for all of that stated. Thank you for listening to the Hoopers Dimension podcast. It's been your host, Ernest or Ernesto. Thank you for tuning in, and bye.